What's up, everyone? James and Mike from Act Audio. We're going to do our next video on how to tune a system. So again, we got the same Maxima here that we worked on in another video. Actually, I don't know what series order these are going to be in, so we may not have showed you that video yet. But go ahead to our YouTube and search if you're interested in some more knowledge. We got another video on this Maxima on how to choose the right devices to integrate audio. But this video is going to be how to tune your system. So as you can see here, we got a factory radio. Try to get this in here for you. Factory radio, and we've installed a complete system. We installed a 4-channel. Yeah, let's go to the back. So we got a DSP up here. We have a 4-channel amp here, and we have a it's hard to see, but a amp, sub amp back here. So what we are about to do is we are playing a sound wave, and Mike is going to sit in the front seat, and we're playing the sine wave, and we are going to turn the radio up until it clips. So we're going to start down low, go down, yeah, that's probably good right there, and we're going to go back. I've already hooked everything up, so we have our wires being tested, and Mike's going to start turning it up. Mike, keep going, a little more, stop right there. So here we got a sine wave, right? And you can imagine a speaker moving along it. So keep going.
Yeah, just restarted.
We're actually clipping right there. What volume was that?
38.
So 38 we clipped. So what does it go up to? 40?
40.
So go back to 35. All right, so you can see, right, it starts to flatten. That's clipping, right? And we'll explain that next, but that's clipping, and that's what we don't want, because that stops the speaker from moving and allows it to produce heat, and that's what will destroy your speakers. So here we found our clipping point, so we know this is 33. We know that we want to go back to 30, which gives us our nice clean sine wave. There it is. And, well, maybe it wasn't, I lied. But it gives us a nice clean sine wave. Go back to 30. And we have a perfect signal into our DSP, which then produces it out. So we tune the amp into, or we found the clipping point of the radio into the amp. So now we need to tune the amp. So what we're going to do is we use this formula: voltage equals the square root of wattage times impedance. So we fill in our variables that we know. Our speakers are 4 ohm. Our watts are 65 RMS. So we need 65 times 4, which is 260. Then we need the square root of 260, which is 16.2. That is our voltage that we are looking for as our target voltage for these speakers in this setup. On the interiors, at least. The sub is a different story. So as you can see, we are set up here to tune the amp. We have a multimeter, which is also an oscilloscope for me, and we have what I call as a PAA3 meter. And you can see we're playing our frequency. Up here, I apologize on this glare. I can't get rid of it. You want to go to your radio. You want to make sure all your settings are flat, and any sort of sound effects that you may have in the radio are turned off, right? You want a baseline, right? Next thing you want to do is you want to turn your radio up to where you found its clipping point. So I know this radio, I can turn up to 40 and it doesn't clip. I've tested it. So I'm going to go up to 35. So I got a little bit of headroom. Say it was a factory radio that started clipping at volume 20. That's where you want to tune it, so that you're getting your max output at volume 20 with no clipping. So then we're going to come here. We did our math earlier, and we determined it was 16 volts we are looking for to get 16.1, I think it was, to get 65 watts. We find our gain. We make sure all of our other stuff is set, which I cover in another video, but we find our gain. Sorry, this is tough to do with one hand. And we're going to turn this up until we get to 16 volts, right? It gets touchy. Oh, see, we got just over 16, and we actually picked up clipping here. So kind of ironic. I can't focus it. I'm sorry, guys. But you can see the little pop up there. I come back down closer to 16.1, which was our target for our math. See if I can get it to 16.1. As soon as I go over, it starts clipping, right? So we're gonna go back. That's as close as I'm gonna get without clipping. So that's one way you can do it with the multimeter or this PAA 3 meter. And while we're here, we'll talk about, let's see if I can focus this. Sorry, this is so bad. Talk about roll off. So there's your main frequency, and there's the frequencies around it. That's called roll off. And we talk about that a little bit in another video. But that's good to know, because when you play a certain frequency, it'll continue playing other frequencies too around it due to roll off. So this is set to 15.89. So you take that 15.89 and plug it into the voltage with 4 ohms into that other equation, leaving the wattage out, and do the math. You can actually come up with the exact wattage your system's outputting. So we're going to do that there. Then we're going to do it again with the subwoofer. I'm not going to bore you in the video with it, but the sub, again, we need to change the frequency so it's not up here. It's going to be down in the subwoofer range. So 60 hertz is probably good, 40 hertz, something like that. And you're going to do it again to your subwoofer. So I just want to jump in here real quick and say, that's called setting your rail voltage. So we're setting the rail voltage of the output of the amp to match the radio to get our exact wattage. Now, part of the reason why I was okay with going a little under, if a customer comes to me, I actually set it a lot under, allow them to break in their speakers, and they come back in 6 weeks or so, and I retune it. Some people don't believe it, but ever since I started doing it, I've had great luck. But you're going to come in here and people are going to turn things on and they're going to adjust this and they're going to change that and add to it. And you're going to get into that clipping realm. And a little bit of clipping is okay. I mean, it's not going to completely hurt anything. You just don't want major clipping. But when you start turning this stuff on, you start adding more power. One thing I highly suggest is stay away from maxing this stuff out. I like to keep it on the lower side, but sometimes it's good to add a little enhancement, but do not max it out. A lot of customers, bass boost 3, bass all the way up, loudness high. That's how you blow your stuff up. So, but that's our tidbit on rail voltage setting for amplifiers. All right, so the first step we did, we set the gains from the radio into the amp at clipping. Then we set the gains coming out of the amp to the target voltage or clipping, whatever came first. Sometimes I'll go higher than the target voltage if I know the speakers well or something like that, but generally I stick to what they want. Now we are going to RTA the vehicle because everything's been set and matched. So we're going to actually match the sub to the rest of the vehicle so it sounds uniformed. Also to the customer's preference, so sometimes it's heavier or lighter. Generally it's never lighter, it's usually heavier. But we'll match the sub to the rest of the car and do that. Set the car. So sometimes, most of the time, it's just a radio that we use to achieve this. In this situation, we actually have a DSP. So I'm going to flip it around and show you what we do with the DSP. All right, so here we are. We're getting in the car. Oh, and by the way, we installed these accents here. They're pretty cool. So from XK Glow. But we have a microphone set up here. We're playing that same pink noise that we played before. Remember, it was nice and uniformed. We don't want it necessarily uniformed in the car. So we're gonna close this up. So it's playing the pink noise on repeat. We're gonna come over to our station. And here you can see how it's being reproduced in the car currently. And we are going to take our DSP and we are going to adjust the output to make this as level as we can. And that is how we completely tune a car. Now, if it was just a head unit, it'd be the same thing, but we wouldn't be using the computers. We'd be doing it through the head unit, which I'll show you. All right, guys, so that in a nutshell is how we tune cars. Sorry we had to kind of make a cut because we had some problems with the other video. So we had to go away from the Maxima and work out here. But in a nutshell, that's how we tune cars. We start at the head unit and we work our way back, finding our clipping points and our max wattage. And so you understand that when we're finding our max wattage on the output of the amp, it's usually the limiting factor, whether it's the speakers or the amp, whoever has the lowest wattage. So if the amp is a 55 by 4 and the speaker's a 40 watt amp speaker, we're going to go to 40. But if the speaker is a 60 watt speaker, the amp's a 55, we're going to go to 55. Or we're going to use an oscilloscope and go higher than 55 until it clips. But without an oscilloscope, we're just going to use a voltmeter and get that volts in. So if we don't have a DSP in the car and we're using a radio, if you have a factory radio, all you got is bass, mid, treble, and you really don't got many adjustments. On a lot of aftermarket radios, you have a lot more. And you can see here, we can go in and we can adjust, right? A couple of key indicators that you want to remember is this is the energy level of the sound at that specific frequency. So we want them to all play fairly even. And in the email, I'll post a picture of what the true sound curve in a car should sound like. But we really don't want to go more than 3 dB up. Lower is okay, but above is not recommended. The way I describe this is think of strings on a guitar. These are your strings on a guitar, and if one of the strings was twice as loud, that guitar is not going to sound good. But what if that same string was half as loud? You're not going to really hear it, so it'll still sound okay. But if it was twice as loud, it's going to be really stand out and sound awful. So you want to get them the energy level of all the frequencies as even as you can using that pink noise, RTA meter, and your equalizer that you have available. Do the best you can. You never can get it perfect unless you're really good at this and you have perfect speaker placement and a really advanced equalizer. So that sums up our video. If you have any questions, shoot down below, DM me, comment, whatever it is, and we'll do our best to get back to you.